So my first mistake is actually the entire setup of this video, which I wish you guys could see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you. Wait. So it's a Clorox thing with a Domino's pizza box and a little glove to hold the bottom part of the camera up. I don't know, what do you want? My tripod is away. We're packing. We're moving, okay? There's a lot going on. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Evan, and I wanted to make a video talking about mistakes I've done in movies. Now, I have done this before a long time ago, probably 1 or 2 years ago. I did a video talking about, certain mistakes that I made during production of some of my earlier skits and stuff. Well, since then, I've made more stuff, and I would like to talk about some of the mistakes and some of the things that I've learned since then, I guess, and what I've applied and what I would like to apply to future stuff as a result of that. So I just kind of want to start this by saying that I think that skits, sketch comedy is like really different from actually making a short film type video. I can't really hold those to the same standard because I'm trying to do different things with one kind of video than I am with another. Like skits, they're not narratives. They're not really like these like beginning and end conflict type stories. They're just kind of like on the fly ideas that I have, and that's something to kind of keep in mind. Skits like Checkmate, Your Secret Admirer, How Reflections Work, the one with my grandpa, like stuff like that is more just situational and a little bit less, about being a flowing narrative. Although, there are narrative elements, there is something that my character wants in all of the, there's things about the skits that follow narrative things but aren't exactly filmed like films. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I kind of want to go through each one anyway. I'm just saying that as I go through these, I really don't think that, not a good story is going to be something that I say for any of these because, a lot of them just don't focus on that. For the ones that do focus on it, I will talk a little more about my thoughts on the story structure and stuff, like, my actual short film stuff, that are legit miniature narratives. I'll talk more about it there, but yeah, let me just start. So Checkmate, which was the first skit that I released 10 days after I put out that original mistakes video. I like Checkmate a lot. I still think that it was kind of my beginning in shot composition and framing. I really like almost every shot in it. I think it's horribly lit, and it's really grainy. Something I guess happened in the rendering process, and the video just ended up looking really grainy and unnatural and strange. There was a lot of continuity issues also in Checkmate. Like, there were certain points when chess pieces wouldn't be in the right place on the board, especially given what happened in shots before. So that was a little messy in terms of that, but I think that kind of thing just happens with me sometimes when you're filming by yourself or when you're filming with one other person. Like, you just, I guess, forget sometimes, especially when you're filming out of order, where stuff was supposed to be. So I could definitely learn from that. Your Secret Admirer drives me crazy because it's one of my favorite 2015 skits, and it had so many rendering issues, as you could plainly see while watching it. Like, it has this kind of choppy thing going on with it. I had a really bad laptop at the time that just would not render anything properly, and I guess the export process was taking so long that I used to export it in pieces, which at whatever, it would export up to before the whole thing crashed, and I would stick the pieces into Windows Movie Maker and re-export them, and it just looked like shit. Like, it was so choppy and so just not well done. There is one shot in particular in that one that I really didn't like, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. Hang on, I'm gonna pull it up. Okay, yeah, it's this one. That's not what I wanted at all. Yeah, that shot was filmed by my brother, who I did admittedly kind of bother. Like, I was like, hey, can you help me film this, like, really fast? And, what I wanted from the shot was for it to be layered, like, where the envelope was, like, in front of my face, and for it to kind of rack focus to me, and it didn't end up looking like that at all, and that shot bothers me so much. Okay, How Reflections Work, another really big testament to, framing. All my stuff in 2015 was kind of me really, really buckling down with making sure every shot was like dynamic looking in some way. But I think that my biggest problem with How Reflections Work, which is a problem I have with most of my other short films, is the lighting in certain places. specifically in how reflections work, it was the bathroom. Like, you know, the bathroom lighting, it was very orange. I didn't understand how white balance worked just yet. I also think there was a big issue in the reflections short with the final punchline. You know, that whole last thing about the ugly looking reflection guy. I think that wasn't conveyed as well as I wanted it to be, and I think a lot of that came from the fact that the makeup on the last guy, you know, on the last mirror guy's face was just me taking pencil shavings and rubbing them all over my face, and it wasn't very clear. I think I could have done more to make myself look uglier, and yeah, I think I could have probably done that a lot better, so big mistake. History of Grandpa, the only problem with that one for me is the narrative thing, which I talked about earlier with most of my skits. I really like the pacing. I still think a lot of the jokes are funny, and just the novelty of getting to film something with my grandpa was great. You know what? Just leave me alone. I love it. Paranoia. Let's talk about Paranoia really quickly because I just watched it again recently and I still really fucking like it. I think that it's probably one of the most solid things I've ever made to date. Like, if I had to, like, rank all my stuff, I would put it in, like, the top 3 things I've ever made because it's narratively significant. I don't think that the narration is great. I think that, if I took the narration out, then the story still would have played exactly the same way, and visually you could tell, which is a testament to the visual stuff. I really like how every shot is kind of important and kind of informs the viewer. So yeah, my only critique for Paranoia would be the narration, I think. I can't stress how much I dislike my Wake Up sketch, mainly being just because, like, it has that problem of, like, you know, not really being a narrative. Again, all my skits have that problem, but the big thing that I hate so much about Wake Up is that, like, the jokes really even fell flat for me as I was writing them, but I hadn't made a skit in such a long time. I was like, oh, whatever, I'll make it anyway. Maybe it'll be funnier. One thing I will say, my favorite scene I've ever filmed was in Wake Up. It was the thing where everyone's laughing at me while I'm not wearing any clothes. Filming with the slow motion camera with the iPhone was a lot of fun, and it's probably one of the most priceless things I've ever made, so I'm really happy I got to create something like that, which is, I guess, something to get out of that. Okay, now we're getting into 2016. So true horror is just something else. I really loved the idea at that time of doing, like, this super allegorical kind of, like, you know, message-driven symbolism type story, because that's the thing I was learning about at the time. It's something that I was, like, really into the idea of, and I still love that stuff, but with true horror, I was definitely not leaning into subtleties at all. It was more about, you know, blatantly, like, hammering in as much symbolic detail as possible, where in a sense there still is a surface story being told there. It's just there's an entire scene that interjects it that, like, screams allegory, which is fine. It's just, you know, it's a small critique I have of it. I think that I like to lean a little bit more into the subtle territory. It's definitely where I want to improve in telling stories like that. So it's definitely an improvement from what that's based on, which is an old skit I made a while ago called My Personal Hell. I don't know why that took so long for me to remember. But yeah, I had a skit a while ago called My Personal Hell, and that's what true horror was based on. And true horror was my attempt at improving on and expanding that type of story. Maybe, who knows, in 3 years I'll do another story similar to it that is even more sound. And the other critique I have about true horror is that the lighting is fucking atrocious. And it's kind of a short that, like, needs good lighting, because the whole thing is that there's supposed to be one spot in that entire room that's lit, and the light is behind me, and so when there's close-ups of my face when I stand up, it's, like, completely shrouded in darkness. You can hardly make out the expression that I make. And I don't know, like, it's definitely one of my favorite shorts I've done. Like, that's in my top 10, but it needed lighting work, and it needed a little bit of tweaking in terms of, like, what I wanted to focus on, because there was a lot of allegorical stuff I could have probably chilled out with. Okay, I love Leave a Message, like, a lot. I wrote that one in 40 minutes, and just the entire way everything ended up playing out with it, like, you know, it made me emotional. I really loved working on it. I think it's solid. I honestly still think that it's solid given everything, you know. Narratively, you know, there's not as much going on behind it, but that's because it's like a 4-minute short about one little enclosed event. And, you know, I love Leave a Message. I'm not touching that. Play Again is another skit, so, you know, There's no story there, but the lighting and the grain is just too much, man. It's so noticeable, and it's so like, it's kind of hard to get around. It's like got this really heavy orange thing to it. Again, I hadn't known about white balance until very recently, so there's a lot of issues there, and I still love the concept, and I really liked working with Laura's little brother, Robbie. You know, he's fun to film with. But yeah, there's a lot of problems with that short. I'm really, like, you know, I'm glad I'm past it, and I'm still moving on and, like, kind of steadily improving, but every once in a while we make something we're not, like, 100% considering to be portfolio material, you know? Great idea for a movie was actually another one of my favorites recently. I think it's the first skit, you know, sketch-based video that I've made that actually has, like, some narrative layer to it. Like, it actually feels like there's a conflict here where a character, yeah, it's montage based like a lot of my other skits are, but I think that this one is more embedded in something, like, you know, based on a character that wants something and another character that's indignantly uncaring about what that person wants, almost like an antagonist. Like, I really like how it uses two me's, because I had always sworn away from doing stuff like that, and only recently was I like, you know, if I'm going to ever do a skit again that involves having two me's or a clone of me, then I would want it to be significant to the actual story. And I might have actually mentioned this a long time ago. I did a commentary thing recently, like a couple months ago, for all of my skits that I consider influential to my filmmaking portfolio. If you guys haven't seen that commentary, I'll leave a link for it in the description. But anyway, tangent. The last thing I wanted to save to talk about was the Moorters stuff, because I think that Moorters was really like my biggest set of projects, and it still kind of is my biggest set of projects. Like, this is the stuff where I'm learning the most and improving the most. That's why I haven't talked about Moorters Deal yet, even though I moved from 2015 to 2016 already. But Moorters Deal has more problems than most of the stuff I've made, and the reason for that is because there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to do that I usually shy away from in my skits and stuff. Like, you know, a lot of the skits that I film and stuff are indoors. I don't have to worry that much about filming stuff in outdoor places where the lighting is constantly changing and where audio is literally like the biggest problem. The biggest problem with Moorters Deal was the dubbing because of that. Like, I had to dub every single line that was spoken outside, and sometimes a lot of that stuff sounded really awkward and forced and weird because I was trying to put lines that we recorded together without context into this video. So sometimes things sound a little awkward and strange just because I needed to get rid of that horrible, like, you know, traffic noises and stuff. I only recently learned how audio works. I just got sound equipment. So up until this point, I've been using the camera, you know, the microphone on this camera, and that doesn't fare very well outside at all. Lighting was also a big problem in certain scenes, especially I think the worst of it was inside Monica Mason's house. I didn't have any lighting equipment then at that point, and that room was just completely dark, and the lamp was behind her for some reason, you know, so the light wasn't hitting her at all. She was just kind of almost in shadow. Really bad lighting, really poor decision. I also feel like I underutilized the music a bit. I was kind of in that frame of mind where I thought the music had to be kind of almost barely audible because I thought music wasn't that important. And whenever I re-listen to it, like, you know, I kind of remember how much work I put into some of the songs there, and how much work my buddy Leo put into like, you know, the main theme, which I did give more audible attention because I was really excited about that theme. But there was other music that kind of just fell on deaf ears, almost literally, and I'm kind of really hardcore regretting that. Though I did fix that problem, I think, like, exponentially in Moorters Afterlife. I think that the music is much more noticeable there, but I'll get to that in a second. The last thing that bothers me about Moorters Deal is that there was one clip that I did not use, one little shot. Now, I was recently going through my hard drive, one of my old drives that has all of the Moorters Deal raw files on it, and I just started watching some of them just for the sake of seeing if I can, you know, put together some kind of VFX breakdown or something for my second channel, because I always like to be making stuff and putting stuff out. Anyway, I found a portion of the scene where Ethan and Diana are talking outside. And, you know, it's Ethan's side of the conversation that this recording is based on. And there's a moment that after Diana walks away, Ethan just kind of stares at her for a minute in this kind of like really profound, you know, connective kind of way. And I'm so angry that I did not include that clip in the finished episode, because there's hardly any indication, at least until the last scene, that, you know, of the relationship between Ethan and Diana, and that shot would have definitely helped sell it a little bit more. Just this little shot of, like, you know, Ethan showing his pride or affection, or however you want to interpret it, by looking at Diana as she walks away, like, wow, I'm with this person. This is a great, like, that look. I think the shot was like 1.5 seconds, not even 2 seconds long. And it just drives me crazy because I love that shot. And here's what it would look like with the shot in the actual finished thing. Alright, we have 6 more deals to go.
Yeah. Listen, I want to do the surveillance on this one.
You sure? I was actually going to put Roz on it.
No worries. I'll take care of it.
Okay. Honestly, I had a feeling you'd see why I made this one a priority.
Because you know that we help people who need it.
And Monica needs it.
She'll get it.
Just don't beat him up too badly.
Not even gonna promise anything.
But yeah, finally let's talk about Moorters Afterlife, because Moorters Afterlife is the most recent thing that I've made that I put up on my main channel, and it's still probably my favorite. It's my #1 thing I've made now. And I say that because, honestly, I think it's the most care I've ever put into shot composition, and that's saying something because, again, 2015, huge year for that. It's also one of the biggest VFX works I've done, like, you know, the eyes and the animating the eyes to look, you know, like they're emoting and stuff. That was all really new to me. You know, I got some practice in it when I was doing the original production of that scrapped Moorters movie, and a little bit in Moorters Deal, but Afterlife was kind of the selling thing for it, because with Nick Mana's voice as Sham, I kind of felt that emotion a little bit more in portraying Sham. You know, Sham was definitely a character I wanted to get right in terms of the way he would show his, you know, how he would emote. I think that the big issue between both Moorters shorts was probably continuity things. I had a bunch of behind-the-scenes mishaps because Moorters Deal was filmed over 2 days, but those 2 days were months apart. So the big issue, I think, is at a certain point halfway through Moorters Afterlife, Sean's hair grows. Like, it just cuts back to Sham, and then when it cuts back to Norman, his hair is suddenly a little bit longer than it was before. And the big reason why it took so many months between those 2 shoots was actually because Sean had shaved his beard and didn't realize or remember that we were supposed to be filming. So I had to wait like a month or 2 for it to grow back. And at that point, not only did the beard grow back, the hair did too, but we were so focused on the beard and him making sure to get it shaped the way that it was, that we weren't even thinking about the hair. So when he showed up for filming, we only then realized, and we were like, oh shit. And similar stuff like that happened in Moorters Deal, except to a little bit of a larger scale, because Deal was filmed over months and months. There were so many different scenes and different places that we filmed this entire episode. It was a mess. Gianna's nails kept changing color because obviously, you know, as time went on and months went by, she got her nails done at different times, and the nails just happened to be different colors, and I kept forgetting, like, what was what, and it wasn't even something that I thought about at that point. That and Gianna's hair was very long at the beginning, then in the following scene, which is supposed to take place, like, on the same day, her hair is much shorter. So that was a little awkward, but continuity kind of sucks in that regard. It's kind of hard to always kind of keep track of that, especially when you're filming on such a low budget with such a small amount of people, and it's something I definitely need to learn to remember. Okay, one more thing. Moorters is supposed to take place in 2009. It hasn't been made explicit yet in the series, but it will be made explicit in the series at some point this season. Monica Mason uses an iPhone 5 in episode 1. Don't know how I could fix that, but whatever. So like I said before in my last video, you know, everybody makes mistakes, especially, you know, up-and-coming filmmakers and artists and stuff when they're trying to portray something or make something clear. I haven't been the clearest all the time in how I portray characters and how I write stuff, and I'm definitely trying to improve with that, and that's the point of making videos like this. You know, to kind of remind you guys that, you know, it's okay to do this kind of stuff. This is a learning process type thing. It's a really good way to kind of continue to learn and to challenge yourself, and I think that this has probably been, at least 2015 and 2016 have been my biggest years of improvement, and I've just about finished learning lighting. You know, I've almost completely gotten that down, and sound is next, so, you know, all you guys are hopefully going to see from here is improvement and stepping up, and that's really what I want. Anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I want to do more discussion videos like this soon. I'm sorry it's been so long since I've uploaded stuff. I've just been really all over the place. As you guys may or may not know, I'm moving. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of this video. We're packing. We're moving, okay? Yeah, I did. So yeah, things have just been really hectic. You know, school's going on, I have work, and there's just a lot of stuff preventing me from making more movies and stuff, and making more vlogs, making more videos in general. Like, stuff has just been preventing me. But anyways, yep, gonna be making more stuff soon, I promise. As soon as the move is over and stuff, and I'm situated, and everything's kind of stopped being so crazy, there will be more videos and stuff. I do promise that. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.